I watch episode 81 of Pokémon every year because I watch every episode of Pokémon every year. In episode 81, friend and foe alike, Ash's greatest friend and foe is himself. The penultimate part of the Indigo parable opens with Ash contemplating his curse of congeniality, his most pervasive trait that routinely distracts him from his dreams. At the open window, Ash expresses his emotions to the void, only to be interrupted by his friends who have found solace in the other kind of windows. They cyberstalk Richie, whose superior stats sink Ash further inward. In the morning, the competitors collide and Richie breaks the tension by reiterating the importance of their friendship over the outcome of the battle. They promise each other to both perform their best. A principled parley applauded by the on-site physician who shares the sentiment with unsolicited advice. Win or lose, they'll still have someone to root for in the next round, but not the round after that. The propitious pact pacifies Ash's apprehension, but from on high the schemers scheme to provide penance for Ash's dependence on friendliness. The felons phone the children's temporary residence, everything is public record, and deep fake Richie's voice to share shallow truth to Misty's ears. After being provoked by who she assumed was his next opponent, she allows the caller to confer with Ash hours before the most important match of his life. The modulated miscreant masterminds a meetup where Ash mistakes a cardboard cutout for a human being. Subdued by simple netting, he and his Pokémon are abducted from their own backyard. With half an hour on the clock, Ash's and friends assume that Ash is okay and decide to do nothing to substantiate that belief. Trapped in the back of a truck, Ash attempts to drown them all in Squirtle's limitless liquids, causing an auto accident on the Indigo Road for the second episode in a row. As Ash attempts to make his way back on foot, Richie has already arrived at the stadium on time. Unlike the previous episode and the one after, they've only targeted Ash specifically. Still deterring him from his dreams, the villain/criminal/gangster/terrorist continue to antagonize the 10-year-old child. Ash breaks free from the baddies by exhausting two more of his team, but then they get biked somehow. Big Jess and Little Jim bound toward Ash and poison the air he breathes. Ash also goes back to his roots, borrowing another bicycle that he has no intention of returning. Having forgotten about their constant ops, all are still waiting at the stadium. No longer convinced into complacency, Misty confronts Richie with violence in front of her largest audience who condone and commend her behavior even without context. Richie clears up the crank call confusion, raising their concerns which they still do not act upon at all. On their third mode of transportation, the tribulators continue to impede Ash. With the efforts of Pidgeotto, Ash finally eliminates them and commands the fourth of his Pokémon to overwork itself just to get to his scheduled battle. In Ash's absence, Richie is offered an easy win but honorably denies the forfeiture. Misty had no reason to doubt Richie aside from her own fraught friendship with Ash. From the skies, Ash finally enters on the crime balloon. If law enforcement were actively enforcing laws, he wouldn't have made it. From a great height, Ash lands on his mark and apologizes to Richie for being the victim of several crimes. Instead of reporting the abduction and subsequent offenses that occurred within their borders to the officials, for which 2/3 of his party were weakened by, Ash agrees to promptly start the match. Ash sends out Squirtle against Richie's Butterfree, but it's exhausted from earlier and is peacefully pacified. Pikachu sends out itself and leaps on the Lepidoptera, barely beating the bug because it too was erstwhile enervated. For his second, Richie sends out his Charmander, who squelches the electric squeaker. With Bulbasaur and Pidgeotto bad bets even at full strength and unsure of using either of the Pokémon that he passively ignored, Ash is left with only one option, the Pokémon he actively ignored. the final evolved form of his opponent that he hasn't battled with or spent any time with in 19 episodes, not counting the last time that they shared screen time that was so traumatic that it was wiped from their memories. Full of unquiet angst towards its earliest days, Charizard is quick to show force against the representation of its past self. Unlike Ash's willingness to let his Pokémon suffer abuses, Richie returns the runt before it is overwhelmed, and for his final he picks his Pikachu. From Richie's perspective, this is an act of fairness, only using the Pokémon that Ash knew he had, an act of solidarity that Ash did not share. But to Charizard, battling a Pikachu is to confront the Pokémon that received all of the care and affection that it never had. Ash commands Charizard to be cautious, to which it responds by starting a beat, flapping back and loafing around. Ash's Charizard is strong, but its strength is not Ash's. He pleads with his most powerful, but it refuses to serve his pride. And just like Charizard, the crowd turns on Ash. The ref makes another quick call, and the loser commands Charizard back to be confined and unseen for another 20 episodes. Ash loses the Indigo League to the Red Trainer. Ash hides his tears and congratulates Richie, asking him to win the next one for him, which he doesn't win for anybody. Brock says they both look like winners, but they're not. Oak and Delia say that they're proud of him because they have nothing else in their lives, and Misty holds her tongue. The Charizard is the easiest to blame, but it is also easy to blame Misty for her distrust in others, or the biased officiant who declared sleeping Pokémon as being knocked out, or the general lack of safety protocols within a recreational discipline catered to children, or just Ash himself for procrastinating away 2/3 of the season. Blame is easy, easier than winning at least, but in the moment those around him don't care about either. They just care about him because he's at risk now. The episode ends with Ash looking up at the torch, a flame he helped keep alight but now burns beyond him, just like Charizard. To be continued.